Well, it's chaos, isn't it? The rape gang inquiry is in absolute chaos. And right at the centre of that chaos is none other than Jess Phillips, the Safeguarding and Women's Minister. She has got to go, either by resignation or by the Prime Minister growing a spine.
It's making me angry. It's just, why is it taking you so long to want to do anything? Why are you not doing anything? We've been to the House of Lords. I sat in front of Jess Phillips and blurted out all of our emotions. Our emotions got the better of us. We got a little bit angry with her. And all she wanted to do was walk away from the situation instead of facing it. It's like we're not ever going to get anywhere with this, and we now are never going to have any hope, because all we ever do is hold on to hope and get let down again and again.
Yeah, it's shocking stuff, isn't it? Well, just this week alone, we've seen bombshell claims. First from the Daily Express, accusing Sadiq Khan, the Labour mayor of London, of allegedly covering up grooming gangs in the capital. Accusations he denies. But now we've had survivors of the rape gang epidemic call for Labour Minister Jess Phillips to resign. Well, Fiona Goddard, a survivor raped by over 50 men as a teenager, told Patrick Christie's last night that Jess Phillips needs to resign after the Labour minister accused her of lying.
My resignation letter, I made public about the attempts to widen the scope and also how the inquiry would be conducted, extending it from localities to regions. She said that them claims were categorically untrue, even though she was aware of them because of personal text I'd sent to her outlining what we were being asked, and her response back to me was that she knew that the question was being asked and that she couldn't make the decision without it being consulted on. So she called me a liar while she knew the truth. I do think Jess Phillips needs to resign.
Yeah, and Ellie Reynolds, another victim who quit the panel, has echoed that, saying this is betrayal. The consultation papers ask if we should dilute it. Should it be just grooming gangs or broader? That's not what we signed up for. Now, 4 victims have walked out in 1 week alone, Ellie Reynolds added. Phillips promised us a voice, but now she's silencing us. That's damning, in my opinion. It's absolutely damning. And at PMQs today, Kemi Badenoch quoted Fiona Goddard, her plea directly, and even went on to make the bombshell claim that the government is briefing against the victims.
They voted against the national inquiry 3 times, so the victims don't believe them. They can say no as much as they like. It is on the record. They don't like it, but it's true. Now, one of the victims has quit. They believe that the inquiry will downplay the racial and religious motivations behind their abuse. Aren't the victims right when they call it a cover-up? He says that they could return to the panel if they wish to. Why would they do that? The government has been engaged in a briefing war against survivors.
Yeah, and here's how Jess Phillips, the Labour minister in question, reacted when she was being held accountable in Parliament.
But the fact of the matter is that there is absolutely no council in this country who will tell this inquiry where it can and cannot go. I have said that 1,000,000 times from this dispatch box, and yet the same thing gets peddled again and again.
I'll let you make your minds up about what you make of that performance. But once again, rather than acting and removing Jess Phillips to restore confidence in this inquiry, the Prime Minister, in my opinion, decided to back Jess Phillips, stating no one has more experience than her. Well, on a positive note, though, when the PM does give his support to someone, they only tend to last and remain in office for a few days or weeks before they're forced off, don't they? And to top it all off now, both of the inquiry's top chair candidates have both withdrawn amid a row over their suitability for the role. Well, Jim Gamble withdrew today. He was the head of the Child Exploitation and Online Protection Command Centre in the United Kingdom until 2010. Well, he should never have been in the running for chair in the first place, as victims have obviously pointed out that the inquiry will need to look into the role the police have had in covering up this grooming gang scandal. And the way Jess Phillips has behaved since January, when this whole thing was blown open again, this whole year really, again, in my opinion, is to do everything she can not to take this seriously. She rejected a national inquiry at the start of the year in favour of these toothless local inquiries, then tried to water those down too just days before we went to parliamentary recess. It is completely clear to me that Labour cannot be trusted to investigate themselves properly. Jess Phillips has not got the temperament nor the judgment to run this critical inquiry, let alone be the one responsible for holding potentially her own party to account if need be. Now, let's get the thoughts of my panel. Journalist Nina Mishkov, former Conservative Special Advisor James Price, and businessman and activist Adam Brooks. James, I'll start with you again on this one, because this inquiry is an absolute tatters. It's an absolute tatters. In 1 week, 4 victims have gone. They've got no confidence, clearly, in Jess Phillips, the Labour minister in charge of this, nor, obviously, the people who might have been selected for chair. They've also gone, by the way. I mean, what a disaster. We've, how many months in now to prepare this national inquiry, and it's already fallen apart before it started.
Yeah, I mean, it's always tempting to call things conspiracy rather than just cock-up, but it's hard to tell sometimes with this government which one is which. When you've got people with those kind of harrowing stories coming out and saying that they feel betrayed, they feel they've been lied to, suggestions that the government is briefing against them, that stuff is really terrible. I'd just focus quickly on Jess Phillips' suitability as a minister. Remember last summer when the riots were all kicking off across the country, she defended a kind of militia out in her patch, saying, oh, well, they only come out on the street with weapons because they thought there was something bad about to kick off, which as a Home Office minister is something you absolutely cannot do. And I think there's a quote in here where she says, it's not right for me to make a decision about this without it being formally consulted upon. Because, of course, we don't really have a parliamentary democracy anymore. We have the rule of the blob, and you have to have stakeholders, this awful subversion of democracy, throwing in at every point here. So maybe it's they're trying to kick this into the long grass. Maybe it's just the fact that the blob is so big and so powerful, you can't ever get anything done in the modern British state.
No, it's worrying stuff, in my opinion, because we should have started this inquiry a long time ago. We should at least be in a good position now where the victims feel like they're being listened to at the bare minimum. Look, Adam, I want to show you this clip before we move on. So if we can roll the clip, that'll be great.
Should Jess Phillips resign?
No, absolutely not. I don't think we've ever had a more powerful advocate for women. One of the reasons that I'm an MP is because of her. I'm like, Jess, I can't do this. Nobody wants all of the many things they've called me in Parliament. And she's like, that's why we need you in Parliament. And she gets it. I understand that people don't trust government. I understand that there are people that are really concerned about this inquiry and the route it's taking, but I have complete faith in it.
Yeah, Adam, what do you make of that quite staunch defence there of Jess Phillips?
Unbelievable. Look, it is my opinion that we're being run by idiots. And they're so idiotic that it's dangerous. We have victims being shamed, being accused of lying. Look, let's remember, the grooming gang and rape gang scandal is probably the worst scandal this country has seen in 50 years. We have young white girls, working-class white girls, simply targeted because they were white, raped and abused and groomed. And it was systematically covered up, from councillors to politicians to mayors, and that was really under Labour's watch. And there is a reason Labour do not want a full national inquiry. It's because they're in it up to their necks. They know what it's going to uncover, and they've done everything they can. They were dragged kicking and screaming to have this inquiry. It was obvious. And now, we're seeing it messed up. We're seeing victims being let down, cover-ups. This is unbelievable, and I really need to ask the questions. What is Labour hiding? What do they know?
Nina, what do you make of course, of this situation? Because I think of the victims. I mean, first and foremost, we all want the victims to get their due day. They deserve justice, first and foremost. And I feel, despite who... I mean, I think the Tories should have done this a long time ago. I don't know why they didn't do it. I think they're culpable for not holding a proper national grooming gang inquiry, might I add. But it seems that this is a complete chaos at the moment.
It's not good at all. And you're right. It's the survivors. It's the women. It's the girls that have been let down by by everyone, by, if you like, being in care by their parents, by the police, by the social workers, and consistently let down. But let's not just think of them as just one blob. They don't all think the same. So you can't just say they all think this, they all think that. They are individual people, and they should be given that credibility and that dignity to have those different views. Now, not everybody thinks the same, as I've said. As far as I understand it, a questionnaire was sent out, and one question on it said, would you like to see this extended, this inquiry extended into general sexual or domestic abuse? That was one thing, and that's what has set this off. There are women who are survivors who want to see it extended. I saw one on the news this evening talking about it, saying she would like to see it extended. So that has just been unfortunate.
On Jess Phillips, do you think she's doing the best she can with the job? Or do you think there's more to be done?
Jess Phillips has more experience in supporting women than any other politician. Before she came into Parliament, she worked for Women's Aid. She has worked tirelessly with women, with girls, with victims of domestic abuse, sexual abuse. She has just been amazing. She's a very passionate woman, and therefore sometimes she, as you saw there, she's not as calm. She's obviously kind of at the end of her tether, but she is the most experienced of all, and she does deserve credit for what she's done, and she does not deserve to be booted off. Look, you're quite right about the Tories. There was an Alexis Jay had an inquiry, a 7-year inquiry. Not a single one of the 20 recommendations was taken up. And when Keir Starmer said at the beginning of the year that he was going to set it up, a report into what should happen, it was because they wanted to start setting in place some of those recommendations.
But hardly any of that report.
And one of them...
Hardly any of that was for Pakistani rape gangs.
They were... But the recommendations were all there that covered
not for those guys.
I've read the recommendations.
Yeah, because you've advised previous government. Do you think that the Tories really failed on this issue? And there's a lot of criticism thrown at the Conservative Party for not doing enough while they had power, now sitting on the opposition benches and pointing fingers, saying, "Oh, you're not doing enough."
Yeah, I think there's a lot of blame to go around, and I take it back to my usual hobby horse. This is the whether you want to call it the blob, but this is the civil service, the administrative state. If you're in America, you might call it the deep state, that has so much power over all of this. It'll be the same people telling Jess Phillips, no, you've got to put it out to consultation, you've got to put that tick box thing in there, you've got to reach out to all these other groups and balance and all that sort of stuff. And unfortunately, Jess Phillips, I don't know her, she may be a wonderful lady. She's obviously a very inexperienced minister. She's only been doing it for a year. It's a very, very difficult job. An even bigger job than maybe was thought when she was put into that role, because it's gained all this salience and people thinking so much about it. I think you need to have a very experienced person at project management and at leadership, sounds a bit wishy-washy there, been able to actually get this stuff done, kick all the various stakeholder groups out of the way and get that kind of justice that's necessary. That's a difficult job to do.
Look, people are calling for her to resign, Jess Phillips. I don't think she should resign. I think she should be sacked. At the end of the day, these victims are what are important here, are who are important here. And she's calling them a liar.
She's not calling them liars.
Well,
one has claimed that exactly that. And to treat these victims with such contempt and to anger and upset these victims so much, in my opinion, she needs to be sacked.
I'd just like to say she didn't say you're a liar. She said what they were saying was untrue, which is a different thing, because the thrust of that question was, do you, as amongst other questions, do you...
So she's effectively calling her a liar.
Do you want to see it expanded? And they've taken it from that, and I can understand they're very sensitive, and I can completely understand. But what I would like to point out...
So hold on, are you not believing what this victim said?
Can I just continue?
Do you not believe what this victim said?
Of course, I believe what she said. I didn't say anything like that. I said I believe them entirely. But may I just continue, please? What I would like to point out is that Kemi Badenoch today in pre-MQs actually disgraced herself because she brought it down to just politics. This is a woman who's completely hypocritical about this, because when she was Equalities Minister, she did not a mention of this in the House, not once. And that's one of the reasons why Jim Gamble, who would have been a fantastic chair would have been marvellous.
Well, there were concerns about Jim Gamble because, of course, he was, in a very prominent role during the time this was all going on. Right? So I actually disagree. I think he needs to be able to answer questions because he's got such a prominent role. Yeah. And Adam, I'll give you the final word on this one because a lot of people feel like that Labour cannot be trusted with this. What do you think should be done in order to make sure that we get to the bottom of all of this?
We need a full national inquiry now, and they need to bring in independents to run this. I do not, as I said earlier, do not trust Labour. They're in this up to their neck. And, I wouldn't trust the police to do a self-assessment of their behaviour. So we can't allow Labour that are so involved in this to do their own homework, mark their own homework. So it needs to be independent experts working alongside the victims.
It is. You said they need to call for inquiry. This is the inquiry they've called for. They're trying to get a chair for it. This is just ridiculous. Jim Gamble resigned as a police officer 15 years ago because of Theresa May, because she was extending it just from child protection. Okay. He was very involved in that.
There's a conflict of interest.
It's not a conflict of interest at all. He's a perfect person.
Tories in government on this issue, James.
I think that, as I said, a lot of blame is to go around, and the fact that people were probably advised that if you get into the bottom of some of this stuff, who knows what kind of social tensions will come up, and that's the big problem. That's what will happen when this inquiry comes to its full fruition. Eventually, you hear the bad stuff that's gone on, people will be very, very angry.
All right, thank you all very much for that. I'm just going to read a response here from the Home Office. They've said the abuse of children by grooming gangs is one of the most horrific crimes imaginable. Any suggestion that this inquiry is being watered down is completely wrong. We are committed to delivering a robust, thorough inquiry that will get to the truth and provide the answers that survivors have long campaigned for. We are working urgently to appoint the best chair to take forward this work and deliver justice, putting victims and survivors at the heart of the process. We are grateful to all those who have shared their insights with us. We share the concerns around unhelpful speculation while this process is live, which is why we will not be providing a running commentary. Well, there you have it. I think there's a lot to be desired on that one, but I think this is going to unravel itself in many different ways over the next few days, coming weeks, months, maybe years.